In fact, what we'd say is that with most B2B businesses, when you get these principles right, instead of doubling your revenue every 4 years, which is the average for most businesses, 25% a year growth, so doubling every 4 years, you can get yourselves in a position by using these principles to really get yourself doubling revenue every year. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of, that's the October 2021 episode of the AskDME live show. Now, if you're new to the show, you'll know that the aim of these monthly shows and the reason we set them up back in February was to really answer people's questions on business growth. So whatever question you had about lead gen, about generating traffic, about mapping out a growth strategy, right the way through to your sales process, running sales pipelines, and through to client engagement and customer acquisition. All of these areas are areas that every day we're working with on our own business. So the show was set up solely for that reason. Now, if you want to engage with the show during the show over the next 45 minutes, then you can do that on the LinkedIn live event. You'll see there's a chat area on there where you can leave messages and engage with the show. You can do it on Facebook and YouTube as well. If you leave comments in YouTube, they'll come through live to the show here. And as always, we've been asking for questions to be sent in. So thank you to everybody who's gone to the trouble of engaging with us and sending in their questions on business growth. Now, this week's show, we're going to be talking specifically about the next year coming ahead of us and how we can put in place proven principles that are going to help you grow your B2B business, predominantly B2B businesses that we focus on, how you can grow your B2B revenue by 50% in 2022. So we've got a great guest joining us today in Hubspot's Nathan van der Laan. But before we meet Nathan, let's talk a bit about your business and where you are now. So the whole aim, as I say, of today's show is this revenue growth over the next year. So how do we put in place these principles for 2022? And I think the key thing to think about is where you are on your business journey. If any of you've read The Entrepreneur Revolution or Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley, you'll know that he maps out a traditional business growth journey. Obviously, there's the startup phase at the start of the journey, and that's really when we're getting going in our business. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of optimism about the future. That first year, you're pushing to get 50, 70, 80K of revenue going. Really getting, he always says it's getting past that 85K VAT threshold in that first year. So startups is an exciting time. And then that's sort of 10% of businesses. Then the rest of businesses, 70%, the vast majority of businesses out there, and the ones certainly that we speak to, are then in this struggle zone. So it's getting from that early startup phase through past I'd say this is more 400K, 300, 400K is where you start moving then into a lifestyle business. And that's the struggle zone. That's where we've no money in our business. We've no time. We're stressed. We're burnt out. We seem to be working every hour that God sends to keep the business moving forward. And I think the key thing that we see with businesses in this area is that it's very much based on the founder. It's the founder's skill set. The founder is still probably doing a lot of the work in the business. He's probably built a small team around him of 2 or 3 people. But again, it's very much that the founder is the business. So just by definition there, it means that he or her are being pulled back into the business on a daily basis to complete tasks, probably low value work, client work, working on client accounts, constantly doing the selling, maybe doing some of the marketing. It's this general thing that you come across with the smaller businesses that are trying to get out of this struggle zone, that he's working in the business and not on the business. It's something that people talk about a lot, but that's why we tend to see a lot of businesses, 70% of businesses out there staying in this zone. Before then, the big secret I feel is then to move into this lifestyle business. So we talk about 400-500K, how you get up to that first million. It's a conversation we have a lot in DME, helping our clients really get from there over to their first million, because in that process, they tend to get a good strategy in place. They start to master how they're going to generate leads. So they have some really predictable lead generation going. From there, they have predictable sales processes. And our 90-day program, and any client who's gone through this will tell you that we're working on sales process, then we work on lead generation, we're working on how well their sales process is converting before we start adding volume into it. And that's all aimed at getting this revenue growth very predictable. So that's what we're trying to do, is move our clients from this struggle zone up into this 20%. And that's really up to 2 million. And then you move into a different type of struggle zone, which is really when you're trying to get towards a performance business. So 2 million up to 10 million can again be another stage of your business. But really what we're going to talk about today is very much based on where most of you will be out there. And through working with our clients, what we've put together are 5 core principles that we know if they actually get these in place, it will help them achieve that 50% revenue growth. In fact, what we'd say is that with most B2B businesses, when you get these principles right, instead of doubling your revenue every 4 years, which is the average for most businesses, 25% a year growth, so doubling every 4 years, you can get yourselves in a position by using these principles to really get yourself doubling revenue every year. And that's got to be our goal. It's got to be all of our goals in business, is to get to that nice position where these elements are in place. And you can see the 5 core principles are strategy, traffic. So that's all about generating the right good fit traffic. And we've talked about this in previous shows. We then go on to the engagement piece. So how do we convert that traffic and engage with that traffic and nurture those leads and the relationships we have with those leads to turn them into revenue and customers in our business. Then how do we delight those customers? So the journey isn't finished once you've sold something to a client. That's really where the journey starts, because now we're going to turn them into promoters. We're going to turn them into people who are happy to talk about our business for us, happy to leave us testimonials, happy to be a case study. Cross-sell and upsell opportunities come from your existing customer base as well. So that promoter stage is a real key stage to get right and a key principle to understand and execute. And at the heart of this, we feel that a system is vital. You know, systems are vital because in the modern world, technology can enable so much. You can report, you can measure, you can have metrics in place and dashboards in place showing you every single step of your business growth. And that's the power of the system. And we'll talk about systems a bit more today with Nathan. Obviously, being from Hubspot, he has first-hand knowledge and in-depth knowledge of systems, but he also has knowledge of all of these areas. So that was really just to put some context around what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about each of these 5 core principles in detail. And what we've done is, from all the questions that came in, we've pulled a question out which aligns with each of these principles, just to give some understanding of why the principles are so important and why, when you get them all working well in your business, 50% should be the minimum revenue growth you're looking at in the next year or so. So let's take the slide deck down for now. Let's introduce you to Nathan. Let's meet Nathan and talk to Nathan. Let me just remove the slide deck and bring Nathan in. Morning, Nathan. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, I think, Richard.
Afternoon, yeah, afternoon. After lunchtime, it always catches me out at 12 o'clock show, but yeah. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, Nathan, and your journey so far.
Yeah, so I'm Nathan Vanderlaan. The surname is Dutch, half Dutch, and as the accent might suggest, I'm half Irish. I am a channel account manager at Hubspot, which means that I work with Hubspot partners to help them to grow. In essence, been at Hubspot for quite a while now. September 2015, I believe, was month number 1. Started off in business development, specifically in the Benelux and the Nordics regions. I then took a year off. Well, for some, was in Latin America, traveling around, which was fantastic. Came back, moved into the partner side of the business over on Hubspot. So we've got, especially on the sales side, we've got the partner side of the business, and we've got the direct sales side of the business. And I spent about a year and a half acquiring new HubSpot partners into the partner program. Then from there, moved into my current role, which is channel account manager, which is slightly different to the one before, where I now, with those new partners that we have, I work on an ongoing basis with them. And some of the things that we look at, for example, are our business growth.
Fabulous. So you'll have deep insight, obviously working with partners that all your partners are working with a variety of clients as well. So I take it you've got knowledge across a number of industries, a number of sectors.
Yeah, precisely. The partners that I work with, they're all HubSpot partners. That's the one thing that they have in common, but they come in all different shapes and sizes. They focus on different industries. They have different skill sets. So whilst HubSpot is in common with all of them, who they service, how they service them will differ.
Fabulous. Right, well, let's bring in some of the questions that have come in, Nathan, and talk about them together as we go through these. Let me just bring the slide deck back in. So the first question we got was around strategy, and we aligned this obviously with the first of our key principles, which is strategy. And it's really, how do I get started planning out a strategy focused on growing my revenue? So a lot of people, I think, struggle with strategy and why it's so important to them. So what's your views on that when you speak with partners or with clients about planning out a strategy?
One of the first things that I'll do with them is, and I use the term North Star. So I always ask them, like, what are they aiming for? What's that one thing? Like, what's that place where they want to be? Is it £1 million business? Is it they want to be the number one, whatever, for whatever industry? So many different ways that you can take that. But I ask them what their North Star is. Once I know that, and let's say for argument's sake that it's something to do with revenue. Let's say they want to get to £1 million, which tends to be quite a common one. What we'll then do is we'll work backwards from there. So if it's £1 million in the next 12 months, fine. If it's the next 36 months, fine. But we know that we want to get to £1 million. We'll then backtrack from there. I like to break it down on a monthly basis. A lot of businesses will look at quarterly targets. At HubSpot, we do monthly, and I think that works well. So we'll look at, for example, the average cost, the average value of a client to them, right? That'll then tell us exactly how many clients we need per month to get us to that goal of $1 million. One of the big things that I focus on with people then is, and I was having this conversation just the other day with a new HubSpot partner. Actually, she was telling me she was trying to get to around about the $1 million mark, and she was explaining that she needed 4 new clients in the next 12 months to help her realize those goals. So everything that she'd been doing around her strategy and around her planning was to acquire these 4 clients. That was the target she set, 4 clients. All her metrics, etc., were based on these 4 clients. But we took a step back and we started looking at, well, to get 4 clients, how many opportunities do we actually need? How many proposals are you sending? What's the conversion ratio on those? And we actually identified after that it's more in the region of 10 clients or 10 opportunities that we're looking for, which changed everything, right? Because if you're just focusing on the 4 clients, if you've got a conversion rate of, let's say, 50%, to make the maths nice and easy, you're only going to get 2 of those clients. If we start aiming for 8, that's going to be a complete game changer. So it's stuff like that we start with. But the North Star, I just like using that term because everyone immediately goes, oh yeah, I know what you're referring to. Having something like that, I find is key.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we talk a lot about when we're planning out a strategy with a client, we're talking about this difference between strategic thinking and tactical execution, because a lot of businesses are wrapped up in tactical execution on a daily basis, and they haven't really mapped out what those tactics are. It's something they've read. It's sort of the next silver bullet, the next shiny thing they've jumped onto. Is this something you come across in HubSpot quite a lot? That's as businesses are so busy in the doing every day that they don't really step back and think about their strategy.
Yeah, all the time. And I do, admittedly, I say to them, like, sometimes it is easier from where I'm sitting, right? But especially businesses in that sort of that struggle phase, I think you called it, they're wearing so many hats. They don't have the time. They're doing 1,000,001 things. And I'm sure we'll get to it at some point today as well. But when I start asking them about the systems and the software that they have in place, systems and software, that should be working for you, not against you. And oftentimes I see, just because it can be so manic, it can be so chaotic in that growth phase. It can be exciting, all these things, but you're working long hours, there's a lot going on. So when it comes to their software selection, when it comes to implementing different systems, they've kind of just cobbled them together. So they've gone, okay, I need email marketing, quick, get me an email marketing tool. Okay, I need a meetings booking link, get me that kind of tool. And whilst that might work short term, long term, it's a hindrance. There are enough challenges as it is. So yeah, it's absolutely, it's very common. I do see it all the time.
Yeah, and like you say, it can become a hindrance when they're trying to scale their business in the future. This is sort of when we're working with clients, we try and get this left-hand side, the strategy, when get people thinking through what their business goals are. I mean, you touched on these points, having that revenue goal, breaking that down by reverse engineering into how many clients you need, how many leads that equates to, and making it very predictable. So you've got your KPIs in place, and we talk about a lot with clients, your business goals, but then there's the whole culture of your business that's built around your why. You know, why are you in business? What differentiates you? And we always talk about differentiating being the key thing you're doing in your strategy, is telling your origin story. You know, what's your backstory? What's brought you to this point? Why are you the person I should be listening to when I've got this problem, this challenge in my business? Why should I be coming to you? And that's all built, all of that, from your vision of what you want to do, your mission. You know, your vision's what's happening in the future, what you want to achieve in the future, but your mission's, you know, what you're doing every day. Why are we turning up to work? And I think that builds that value and culture. Your visual brand obviously reflects that. All of these things are key. And then that really will dictate the right-hand side, which will be you were talking about the systems, you're talking about I class website as part of your system now. You know, it's not just a brochure anymore. We know it's an actual lead generation system. Every element on your website should be thought out with that sort of focus in mind. So yeah, definitely what Nathan was saying is so true. And then go through what we're taught to do when we're with when we started with Hubspot. This is something that we learnt inside out, and it's something I'm sure Nathan will expand on a bit now, but it's these core questions of what are your goals for growth, what are your challenges to growth, so what's stopping you growing. There's in every business that we work with, or our own business as well, we have challenges that we constantly have to overcome to just take that next step forward. It may be people. It may be that you want to attract better people to the business. You feel that you know, you're developing your culture, a high performance culture in your business, and that will then attract the right people to the business. And then timescales. It's really important. We've said this is 2022, but you should be looking at where you want to be in 2025. And then breaking that back, like Nathan said about reverse engineering, take that back to the present day. So what are the goals for 2022 and where do I want to be in 2025? Any gaps? I think Nathan hit on it there with technology. We've come across a lot of businesses in that same boat that Nathan was talking about then, where their gaps are actually being created by themselves because they've taken on different pieces of software at different times of business growth. None of that's aligned. None of the team are using it. The team aren't aligned around a system, and we'll talk about this later. But the gaps may be resources. It may be people gaps. A lot of people that use us, they know that we have certain skill sets that they can just bring in. You know, there's no point them trying to fill that as they're growing their business, because they have other priorities. So filling those gaps could be using DME, could be bringing HubSpot into the equation as well, to leverage and really make sure that you grow in the right way and have the right skill sets and knowledge within the business. And those metrics, those breaking down those metrics and KPIs. Is there anything you want to add to that, Nathan, that you see working with businesses?
Well, firstly, they're fantastic questions. I do go through these a lot as well. And what I would say, so I would agree with you on all the points that you've made there. On the time scale piece, what I would say is, and this is I'm kind of coming from the systems angle here, and as much as, I mean, I have my HubSpot hat on, right? So a lot of what I'll be sharing will be kind of with that through those HubSpot tinted glasses. But if we look at timescale for growth, sort of is it a mistake? I don't know, but what I see happening is when I have these conversations with businesses, they almost, as much as software can help, it's not the be all end all. It's not a magical fix. Sometimes people, you know, in a way that they hope that they can plug it in and the leads start coming, or, you know, they plug it in and they start closing more customers. And that's not entirely how it works. So it's just something to factor in. So when you're thinking about your timescale for growth, you absolutely need the right system to help you to grow. But factor in that it's going to take time to get up and running. Factor in that it's going to take a little bit of time for the team to learn how to actually effectively use it. Factor in all those things. And the analogy I would give here, and I share this a lot with people, it's when you think about your system, think about it sort of like maybe like a gym membership, right? You signing up to a gym doesn't guarantee that you're going to see X results, whatever reason you're there, right? Is it to get bigger? Is it to lose weight? Is it, you know, to do whatever you want? It's how you apply yourself. It's are you following the right program, the right diet, you know, all these things. And I would say the same goes for your actual system. So factor all of these things in. Like, you absolutely need the right system for growth. It's not going to be a magic fix. And it's just something that's very important to be aware of. Just want to touch on that, especially when it comes to that time scale element.
Fabulous. Yeah, and that leads nicely on to question 2. So that's a great segue. Well done. I don't know if you planned that one or not.
Nope.
So question 2, again, we do regard the website as part of the system. I think it's, you know, as I say, it's moved away from just being a nice brochure. It's now that piece, well, the critical piece of lead gen. So it should be turning into that lead gen machine that we're trying to get working at the top end of the funnel to just pull people through. But this question is it's something we hear a lot, is that people are getting fairly good traffic through the website. You'll look at their Google Analytics and think, oh, you know, 1,000 visitors a month, 1,500 visitors a month. You know, why are they not converting those into leads for a start? And a lot of people say, well, we seem to be attracting everyone. How do we get that, get our website more focused on attracting the right people through the website? So have you anything that you generally talk about with people when you're looking at their website and offering them advice on how to improve it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, firstly, if you're attracting everyone, not necessarily a bad thing, like that you're doing something right. You're getting a lot of traffic. A lot of businesses actually do struggle with that. But I do hear this a lot, right? Because it's not just traffic that we want. If you're getting 1 million visitors per month, but they're the wrong types of visitors, you know, that's not really good for anyone. So what I always bring it back to, and I know that this is a challenge, but it's, when I speak to a business, it's understanding what you do and who you do it for. Do you have your buyer personas clearly mapped out? Do you really solve for something very specific? Do you understand their exact pains and challenges? And is your whole site built to serve those needs, to answer those questions? It's especially businesses in that struggle phase. You know, I hear it all the time, and they kind of want to serve everyone. And if they get an opportunity with a client, they'll just take it, regardless of the industry. And I have seen that work. It's not to say it never works, but if I look at the partners that I work with, the businesses that I work with, the top ones, all bar one, he is quite general in what he does. The other ones are, for example, one of them has a real specialism in independent schools in the UK. And everything that she does is built around that. The whole website, the whole strategy, the buyer persona, the content that she's creating, what she's publishing on social media. It's so specific. So the type of traffic that she gets, I mean, I'm not in an independent school in the UK. There's no way that I'm going to be searching for that. So there's no way that I'm going to be any kind of traffic on that website. So I would say being so specific about what you solve, who you solve it for, and then more than that, really just understanding your buyer persona on a very, very deep level. That's going to help, I think, to some degree, just to making sure that the traffic that you're getting to your site is the right type of traffic.
Yeah, amazing. That's great advice. It's something we talk about a lot, the inbound marketing methodology. And I know Hubspot really got inbound marketing on the map And Dharmesh and Brian Halligan were very much instrumental in this whole approach of attracting the right person. And I think we follow this, and we map this out all the time. Even now, it is still the most effective marketing methodology, in my view, for filling your funnel with the right type of people. And it's those different stages that people go through. But that stranger to visitor stage here, that awareness stage, it's so key, as Nathan was talking about then, that we map out our buyer persona. And I think if we're talking B2B, predominantly B2B companies that we help, there's two ways we do that. First of all, we're looking at sectors. So what niches you were talking about with a school niche there? What's the ideal customer profile as far as a sector and a business type goes? So what are the companies that we're actually targeting and would be a good fit? So that's like having a good fit matrix that they tick all these boxes. So it may be turnover, it may be number of staff, it may be how geographically where these companies are based, it may be what sector they serve themselves. So it could be electrical engineering companies, for instance. But you want to be really specific, first of all, on the type of company. And then from company and firmographic details, we're really then moving into the primary buyer persona of who the person within that company is, who's going to be your champion, who's that decision maker within the company. Because in B2B, again, everybody who works in the industry knows that you're going to have 6 or 7 people around the table making these decisions. It won't be that one person, but I can guarantee it'll be one person who will be your champion. It'll be that one person who is bringing you into the company. There'll also be blockers that you need to identify in that decision-making group. There'll maybe be the FD, who's the financial director, whose sole aim is to save money, and you have to justify the cost to them. Maybe the operations manager. I was talking to a company the other day, and his key buyer persona was the operations manager, but he knew the operations manager had to bring the FD into any decision above a certain price. So again, defining those people and knowing that those are who you're targeting, then you can move to the next stage once you understand who that person is, of understanding exactly what their pains are, what their obstacles are, and what their prize is. So as Nathan rightly said then, and it's really true with us, is that we have an entrepreneur of a certain size business who we're trying to get, as I say, towards that £1 million turnover. And that's always been our sweet spot. For the best clients we've worked with over the years, they've been about 300, 400, 500,000, and they're trying to get towards 1 million. And everything we do seems to be a perfect fit for them. But when you think about that person, their pains are all very similar. Their challenges and pains of those business owners, as we've talked about today, they are in that struggle zone and trying to move out. But it goes deeper than that. There's emotional pains as well. So there's the pains that you think about as the superficial pains of, I'm struggling for money, I'm struggling for time, I'm feeling burnt out, all the things that come with that struggle zone. But then there's the deeper ones. How does that actually manifest itself in reality? How does you struggling for time manifest itself in your emotional life as well, at home and things like that? There's all these other factors that you can consider when you're looking at the buyer persona. But it's the same for marketing people. It's the same for the sales manager. If you're targeting a sales manager in a company as your buyer persona, it's the same if it's financial directors. They've all got their own pains, both personal and in their job. The obstacles are things that they're doing on a daily basis that's stopping them getting to that solution or getting over the pain and getting towards their prize. Their prize is often a solution. That's the answer to my pain. And again, those obstacles are things that they think on a daily basis. So bad ideas, and we all get into this of, it doesn't work in my industry, doesn't work in my area. These are things that we need to change our perspective on things a lot of the time in business to start moving forward. And these are the obstacles. And those obstacles will then generate bad actions. So on a daily basis, I try and identify what your persona's bad actions are as well that they're taking, because then your solution can take them from the pain over their obstacles and get them to the prize. And that is a really nice place to be for all sides. And the outcomes and payoffs for that persona, and HubSpot do quite a lot of this, and they talk about if every business did was solve one problem for one persona, we'd all be successful. And I think that's really true, because we all, when we have a pain, we're looking for the solution, you know. And so if you're the best in the world at providing that solution, you're never going to have to worry about attracting the right people. So let's move on. Keep moving, Nathan. I'm keeping my eye on the time here as well. So into question 3. So we've got the strategy in place. We've got the engagement piece going now, and the traffic's coming through the website. We're now engaging with it. And this is something I'm sure you hear a lot, but we do as well, that people are generating lots of leads. So their lead machine seems to be working, but for some reason, it's not converting into business. Where would you start improving this? And I'm going to hand that over to you, Nathan, to take over the answer to that one.
I would say, just off the top of my head, 2 things I would look at straight away. One is kind of actually referring back to a previous question and a previous point is, do we have our buyer personas mapped properly? Do we know exactly what we're solving and who we're solving it for? Meaning that the traffic that we're actually getting to the site is the right type of traffic. Because if it isn't, and we're somehow managing to convert these people who are on the site, then we're going to struggle to turn them into business, because ultimately it's not what we solve for as a business. So that really is key. That's kind of referring back to the previous question. If, however, you have a situation where it's the right type of lead that you're converting, but you're struggling with the follow-up, or you're struggling to actually convert them, one of the first things that I would always do is I would ask people about the systems that they have in place and processes. So I would say, talk me through it. When a lead actually converts, what happens? Do they drop straight into the CRM? Who follows up? Who's notified? Where is this reported on? What's your SLA for actually reaching out to them? Are you reaching out to people in different ways, depending on who it is that's actually converted? You were referring to earlier on there about, you know, like a champion versus a blocker versus who is it that's actually converting on the site? Is it C-level? Is it an intern? We need to know all of these things, and our follow-up strategy needs to be built accordingly. So it really comes back to the system again. Like, when someone converts, we need to be on that straight away, but we need to get the right message in front of that person at the right time. We need to be notifying the sales team, so that handover between marketing and sales needs to be incredibly smooth. So ideally within the same system, so that it's not disjointed, and you know, a lead converts and a week later someone from sales reaches out saying, hey, I noticed you're interested in speaking. You know, that's not going to work. So those are just 2 of the big things that would come to mind straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on process then, and I think that engagement piece is all about that lead nurture, isn't it? And having it as quite a structured process. I think the challenge a lot of businesses that we come across is they haven't worked on their conversion or a sales process that's going to convert in a really reliable way before they start adding volume into it. So I talked about this last week about the 2 conversion points to really focus on in your business when you're growing it. Website conversion is obviously where you're going to get your leads, but I think the sales process conversion has to be worked on before even your website conversion, because we've had a number of clients where the leads are being generated, but like you've just said, they're not being followed up in a structured way. So again, how can that look in reality? Well, having an inbound marketing methodology, there's also that inbound sales methodology of identifying the right people, and then having a structured process you move them through to connect with them. So how do we reach out to people initially? There's all sorts of different lead sources coming into our business. There's incoming phone calls, there's people visiting the website, there's people engaging with us on social media, there's people maybe filling in a different types of lead magnets, so downloading PDFs, coming on webinars, coming on shows, you know, all of those are a type of lead. So how do we identify the good fit ones is what we were just talking about then with our personas. Yes, they tick the box with they're the right ideal customer profile, they're the right persona, they're the people we want to be engaging with. How do we then connect with them and reach out to them in a helpful manner? And I think, you know, Dan Tyre talks about this so much, but it's so true that now sales isn't about convincing people, it's about helping them make the right decision. So giving them the right information to make a decision that's right for them. So that connect call for us is a 15-20 minute call where all we do is talk about them and what they were looking for help with, and identifying if it's worth then proceeding to a longer discovery call or an exploratory call, which would be phase 2. So a short call first, and this is where most clients don't have this at all. They just go straight to, oh, well, we'll chat to every lead we do that comes into the system and hopefully convert a few down the line. So this mentality is have different stages and deliberately stop after 15 or 20 minutes and then move on to the next stage. And again, the power of that is that you're pre-qualifying as well for your own system that the person is a good fit for what you do for a start. You know, there's no point continuing down writing a full proposal that could take 2 or 3 hours to produce, having another hour-long call if it's not going to go anywhere and it's not a good fit for either of you. So again, having that step-by-step process to move people through from a lead that comes in as an MQL, a marketing qualified lead, then sales pick it up and it becomes a sales qualified lead, a sales opportunity as they move along this process that you've put in place. And then at your advised stage, you really can produce a solution that is tailored to them, very personal to them as a person, and addresses all of those concerns that you've uncovered as you go through. And that works in any B2B business that we've come across. Doesn't matter if you're selling widgets, doesn't matter if you're selling services, if you're selling solutions, if you're selling to other businesses, going through this process, one is going to make sure that you involve the right people all the way through. There's no point just convincing the champion because he's probably already convinced about you. He could love you. But if, as I say, if the FD or the owner of the business, everybody else who needs to be involved in this decision isn't involved after that connect call, and one of the questions that we would always say before we have the exploratory is there anyone else that we need to be pulling into this conversation at this stage? Sounds like we've got a lot we can talk about here, but you want to have those key people involved so everybody has the same knowledge. And that to me is how you get to the advice stage. So every one of your solution presentations, you know, when you leave that presentation, they should want to work with you. So again, having that step-by-step process, I would say, is something that's key. Making sure you've identified, as Nathan touched on there, the right people, and then you won't have this problem. That problem that was in the question just won't be there at all. Right, so let's get on to question 4. I'm keeping my eye on the time, 36 minutes. We're doing well, Nathan, we're doing well. So question 4, let's go through this then. So that we've now got that sales process in place, we're converting people into customers. And as I said at the start, I think a lot of businesses can get that first 2/3 fairly right if they try hard, but then the big piece and the money that's being left on the table is they don't have this client engagement piece going. So what do you think is the secret to getting existing customers to be more loyal and use us more?
I'm really worried we don't have too much time because these are brilliant questions, but we could almost do a full session on each one of these questions because it is layered. There are so many things. So I'll try to just give one a little bit, and this is how we think about it in HubSpot. And yes, it does come down to the system again. One of the biggest pains that I see with customers, and I see it myself, if I'm purchasing something else, if I've spoken to a sales rep, if I've gone through a process, I've answered a bunch of questions, if I then become a customer and I'm speaking with a success rep and I have to start answering those questions again, they don't have the insights from sales, they don't have the insights from marketing. That's really, really frustrating. However, if it's kind of one joined up experience, that's going to make me a very happy customer, right? My needs are being met. I know that this business is listening to me. I don't have to constantly repeat myself. That's going to be a happier, more loyal customer. One of the big ways that you do that is actually having a system where your marketing is speaking to your sales, is speaking to your services, as opposed to, again, having the whole thing be completely disjointed.
Absolutely. And the benefits, I suppose, for most businesses are that everyone wants to have reviews. We all want to have positive testimonials from our customers, and that is all about putting our arms around them and delighting them. We talk about delighting a customer with our actual offering, but actually it's that post-sale offering as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Because I think that's where, that I say leaving money on the table, but most of the cross-sell and upsell opportunities that are generated in businesses are by having a good product, a good follow-up product for customers, for existing customers. So having a customer product as well as your core product that that you've brought people on board with, is then what's that next step? Because certainly, we find that we have clients coming on the 90-day program, and then it naturally leads to talking about the next 12 months retainer, things like that. So again, all of these are important, as well as case studies and reviews, because reviews are going to underline other customers' decisions to use you as well. So, it's how, when we're doing our research into businesses, when you're buying on Amazon, wherever you're buying things, you're relying on reviews so much nowadays in that research process. So, right, let's move on to question 5, Nathan, so we keep on track and Rachel doesn't tell us off too much. Right, so this will be your system. This would be your question that you could have talked for the full 45 minutes about. I know, that's why I stuck it at the end. So we give you a nice 5 minutes to get stuck into this, Nathan. But what are the key elements of a system that I need in place to grow my business? So I'm going to hand that over to you, and off you go.
So I feel like I've kind of been dropping this in the whole way through, right? But a few things about a system. It needs to be easy to use. That's absolutely just one of the fundamentals. You can have the most sophisticated, amazing system in the world. If none of your employees, or if you aren't actually using it, if you aren't entering data into that system, good luck, right? It's just not going to work. The other really big thing, and this is one of the biggest pains that I see with businesses in this kind of struggle phase that you spoke about, or actually, to be honest, because I work with Hubspot partners, but then we deal with their clients as well, and these can be into the millions in terms of the size of business. That pain is still true for them too. It's just almost gotten worse, and it's harder to change. And that pain is that they have cobbled together different systems. So they once started with a website, because everyone knows now that if you're starting a business, you need to have an actual website. Someone might have gotten some sort of CRM, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're just using a spreadsheet. They heard somewhere that they needed to start email marketing. So they're like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'm going to get myself an email marketing tool. Social media, that seems to be pretty common. I'm going to get myself a social media tool as well. Maybe some sales reps are reaching out to them, selling whatever software. They end up, buying them too. And they ended up with 5, 6, 7, 8. I've seen more systems that they have. Those systems don't speak to each other. And if they do, they've tried to build crazy integrations, which sometimes work, sometimes they don't work. If they have an issue with one of the systems, they'll call up that provider and say, hey, that this is broken, and they'll ask a few questions and say, oh no, it's to do with this other provider. Go speak with them, and you're just going around in circles. It's frustrating. You don't have the time. So having an all-in-one system where your website is managed, where your leads are coming in, and it's easy to use, it's easy to build. Everyone in your business can actually use this system. You're easily able to build conversion paths. Those leads then drop into the CRM. The sales team says, thank you very much, because it's such a smooth process. The right types of leads are coming in. They're being followed up with. Marketing know that these leads are actually being followed up with, right? That's really valuable too, because there's this age-old battle between marketing and sales, which shouldn't be there. But if you're using different systems, if it's disjointed, obviously that's going to happen. You have sales saying, marketing, these leads are awful. Marketing are saying, sales, you guys are lazy, you're not following up the leads properly. So that needs to be one smooth process. The moment a customer or a prospect actually ends up spending money with you, fantastic. That should be marked in the CRM. That handoff to services should be smooth as well, right? The services team should know exactly the conversations that were had with sales, and they should know where they converted, what the initial offer was, so they can see, oh, this customer seems to be interested in that specific thing. That's how they found us. There's so much that I could say about this, and I'm very conscious of the time, but having something that's easy to use, having an all-in-one system, having something where there's easy to use support, is it accessible? All these things are so important, and it's not going to solve all of your problems, but it's going to make it a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, just bring you back up. Yeah, absolutely. I think we totally agree on that one. I think the 4 areas that we always talk about are definitely having that the CRM piece, where you talked about spreadsheets, it just sent a shiver down my spine, because I think about how many times I've got to bring data back into a system. But actually CRM now, I mean, even with HubSpot's free CRM, you've got a powerful tool there that can have all of this in one place that all your team can see. As you say, that alignment between the team that people struggle with, because everyone seems to be off in their own silos. Actually, just having a single source of truth at the heart of your business alone can solve a lot of those pains, can't it? And then I think that the big thing with digital for me is that I can measure everything, and I can produce reports. There's no conversion rate I won't know. There's no area of our business that we won't know what's working and what is not working. So we can make decisions and optimize and improve constantly. This iterative execution that we talk about is just optimizing and improving what we've put out there as a theory. We've tested it, we've sent traffic to it, we've then split test, we've got things moving, and that's all built around measuring, being able to measure things. So I think a good system must be able to give you that, and easily. I think the problem with your spreadsheet mentality is, and we've spoken to so many clients who I said, how do you cobble together reports? How do you put reports together? And how do you have a dashboard showing you what's happening in the business nearly live? Oh, we can't. No, we've got to pull a piece of information from this place, got to pull another piece. And that's, again, back to your point about different systems not talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how on earth are you going to have meaningful data that you're making decisions on? You know, and that's it. I mean, we think having good data in place is the core of that data-driven decision machine we're trying to get. So every decision you make in your business is backed up with a piece of data. It's in black and white. It's not someone's opinion. And again, in that struggle phase, you'll have the founder who's got the strongest opinion in the business and will probably overrule everyone. But as soon as marketing and sales have this data and can say, well, hang on, this is what's working, you know, then that removes opinion from that. Easy adoption, Nathan put on. I think, you know, it's key that everybody in the business uses this. It's no good if just the C-suite are using it and nobody else in the business is. It's no good if marketing's using it and sales and service aren't using it. So again, that easy adoption, so you can be onboarded and everybody can use the system across, just means the data is so rich. It's constantly being enriched as well. I mean, things like buyer persona data, that a survey has gone out to all the people who fit your buyer personas, and the data comes back and it's then updated in your personas. So you just know more and more about these perfect buyers you're trying to attract. And that connected tools, I think Nathan hit on it earlier, that as businesses get bigger and as we scale and grow, which is what we're all trying to do with our businesses, you need a system that can grow with you. So as your business grows, everything's there that you can leverage. And, you know, when I talk about leveraging technology, it means that you don't necessarily need another person, because the system's doing a lot of the legwork for you. You need the highly skilled people, and that high performance team of 6 to 12 people turning over 2 million is so possible now if you have that right system at the heart of it. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at 20, 24, 25 people. And you look at inefficient businesses who are turning over, you know, big amounts of money, but the size of their team and everything, it's so unwieldy. There's no problem. There's no wonder they get into that struggle phase again before they get to a performance business. So again, those 4 areas, keep in mind that, you know, whatever system it is you use, make sure it ticks those 4 areas for you, and is as connected as possible, because it will make your life so much easier going forward. Right, Nathan, have you any words of wisdom, pieces of advice you want to give people as we come to the end of this live show?
The pressure, what a way to wrap up the show. No words of wisdom as such. Look, it's a big decision, especially when it comes to the right system that you're looking for, but it is so important, and it's worth the time. Like, spend time evaluating this, try it out, and get it in place early. Honestly, the headache that it's going to cause you down the road, a year from now, 2 years from now, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. So just do your homework now, spend a little time on it, and speak with Richard, who can definitely help with this. And just it's worth it, making the investment now for the long run.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing what you've seen working for people, and hopefully helping everybody get to that point of getting 50% revenue growth in 2022.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. All right. Well, hopefully you found that really interesting. You know, my takeaway for everybody from this show was really that it's not an impossible ask, this 50%. In fact, I think when you get those 5 principles firmly embedded into your business that we talked about at the start, those steps will really take you towards 50% or more in the next year. Again, it's working on each of them, getting them working for the business. The next show we've got coming up is going to be Wednesday, the 17th of November. Now, that's the last show for 2021. We've not got one in December, obviously getting nearer Christmas. We usually have them middle towards the end of the month. So 17th of November, Wednesday at 12 noon is the next live show we're going to be running. And we're being joined by Austin Hempstead. Selling is a Skills, his company. He's one of the UK's leading sales trainers. And again, Austin's going to share some advice and some tips all around that conversion. So we've heard quite a lot about conversion, and it's all down to that sales process that we talked about. And Austin is just one of the UK's leading experts in sales. So make sure you join us for that show. Again, as always, just keep those questions coming into us. Email them to support@Digital Media Edge, DM me on LinkedIn, send me a message on there with them, or wait for the show LinkedIn live event to go live and put them in the chat there, and we'll get those in the show to ask Austin as well. All right, so thanks for joining us today. Thank you again to Nathan for his time, and we look forward to seeing you in the next show. Take care. Bye now.